Good morning and welcome to Enterprise Friday on Enterprise. Good morning and welcome to Enterprise Friday on Enterprise Television. I am Olagoki Ayotomiwa. We'll begin with our newspaper review before diving into our main conversation for today. Please do want to follow us across all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV7. Like, share, and engage. So joining us today is Benga Bola Ayonuga. He's a political commentator and public affairs analyst. Good morning, Benga.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine, sir.
Mm.
I'll, okay. I'll be starting the newspaper review from Daily Trust. Wike orders demolition of 30 buildings on Abuja Road. 98 days after, parents of abducted Borno pupils demands FG actions. Moving to The Guardian. Ribado hinges insecurity on proliferation of small arms. 2027. Back Obi to sack Tinubu, NEC charges article as ex-VP rules out 2031 race. Sad. Bad state of police barracks. Officers live with filth, leaks, and rodents. That's on the Vanguard. And then on the Bunch, over 46 bodies recovered in Sokoto, both accidents. Benga, going back to the Daily Trust, Wiki orders demolition of 30 buildings on Abuja Road. The Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Eson Wiki, has ordered private structures to be collapsed because it's obstructing public infrastructure. So, Benga, why do you think the FCT minister has ordered that to happen? Has it been approved by FCT authorities before the private infrastructures were constructed?
Thank you. First and foremost, let me say that I'm happy that your station is giving younger people an opportunity to be on air because we had to build it tomorrow from today, and I am delighted to, be on the show and speak to you. Now, to the question on ground concerning demolition of infrastructure. Over time, everybody does as he or she likes in the country because we believe that money solves all problem. Even when people know that this is wrong, of course, they might claim to have gotten approval from FCT, but you do proper investigation and you ask yourself, how did they get this so claimed approval from the FCDA? Is it through the normal channel or did they have to bribe their way to get this approval when they knew from the Abuja municipal charts that those structures will be on the right of way of maybe dams, trunkings, and other public infrastructure projects that will prevent either flooding or even serve as green spaces in the future and all the whatnot. So people sometimes know this thing, but the idea that, oh, we are the one in government, or I have friends in government, or I have money, money answer it all thing. I can pay my way and get the requisite document, even when they know that that place is illegal. Sometimes, in fairness to some of these people, they don't know. But ignorance is not an excuse in law. That's why if you are investing hundreds of millions of naira on a project, it is your prerogative to do due diligence to get all the necessary information before you throw your money on such project. And since they have not done that, and the recent flooding in the Federal Capital Territory is directly as a result of these structures that are obstructing the right of way of the water for them to flow properly. I think it's a good decision by the minister, even though, of course, as a human being, as a house owner myself, I know that the people who owns those structure will be going through some kind of trauma at the moment. But and that is this, if we want to look at it, calls for a whole plethora of issues that we are not looking at in Nigeria as a country. One of which is, if they got all the right documents, even if they got it through the back door, I think the FCDA should find a way to, compensate them so that it won't look as if, oh, you gave them all these files and record to show that they dotted their I's and crossed their T's. That's one. Then two, I think this raises the question of insurance or home insurance, for many Nigerians. It's a practice that we do not actually do very much. Myself speaking, for a long time, I've tried to do full insurance for my house, but every time I look at the money and, you just consider children's school fees, other things, to chunk out that kind of money for me is hard, even though I understand as a person that it could be my saving grace someday in the future, because I'm sure that if home insurance is something that is made compulsory for the country, even if the owners of the building, did not do their due diligence at the beginning, I'm sure that the insurance company would have done their due diligence, would have called the attention of the homeowners to the danger this poses for the future, and the fact that it can be, in the radar of government for demolition and all the rest. And this could have maybe helped the homeowner to prepare ahead of time. And let's say the insurance company fail in their duties and they insured such houses. In the case of this kind of demolition, the insurance company will bear part of the cost, so it will not be a total loss for the homeowner. But to your question, the government has not done anything wrong in doing this, because you can't, because of one person, put thousands of people in danger, thousands of property in danger. It's just like when you go to driving school, they always teach you that if you need to hit one person on the road to save maybe 90 people in a bus, which one would you choose? You have to make the minimum effort to save the maximum number of people. So the government has not done anything wrong as far as I am concerned on this particular issue.
Okay, Benga, but how did these structures come to be built on this designated road corridor? Were the owners of this building, was proper enlightenment not put in place before they started the project? Because a lot of money would have been put, because they are private ownership buildings. So did the Federal Capital Territory government of Abuja, didn't they not put proper enlightenment before they started the buildings?
I've explained everything to you in my earlier submission that, no matter the enlightenment where the government put in place, some of the owners know what they are doing, some don't, but the onus is on the owners to know what they are doing, because, I mean, you are a young man. I'm sure that if you have maybe 10 million naira right now, and they are asking you to go and buy something, maybe you want to buy something, say a car, for example. If you truly work for that 10 million naira and it is not some Yahoo money or some stolen money, you truly work for that 10 million naira, I'm sure you would ask every questions under the heaven concerning the car you want to buy. You will go online, you will make research, you would ask friends, you would ask, people who are older than you, information about that car before you splurge that kind of money on it. So if you will do that for something worth 10 million naira, should you not expect that somebody who is buying a land or building a property worth 100 million naira, some of them are worth even a billion naira, shouldn't you expect that such person would have done their due diligence, would have asked all the questions, make all the research, and not necessarily wait for enlightenment just from the FCDA? Even with the FCDA enlightenment, shouldn't they have gone further in making proper private investigation before putting their money on such project? And that is what I've explained in my earlier submission. So for me, it is not. I do not blame the federal government. I see it all over Lagos here where I stay, where people, even the government, will tell people don't build here. This is obstruction, and they will still go ahead and build. And sometimes because maybe there was no problem, no flooding, that structure might be there for 10 years, might be there for 15 years. But someday a government will wake up and say, this infrastructure ought not to be here. And the owner knew right from the beginning that it ought not to be there. But, they've been there for 15 years and they will use that as an excuse of right to occupy the place. I mean, there was a similar incident back in, I think, the 2007 governorship debate in Lagos State, when Governor Fashola was campaigning for a second term. One of his opponents back then, spoke to him about how he was trying to reach the governor and the governor was inaccessible. And the governor said the reason why that person wanted to reach him and it was not accessible was not a reason why it needs to be accessible, because the person, he quoted the house address of that person, and that person built his property on drainage line, and they know, and they are trying to see the governor to use political manipulation so that that building can stay, and the flooding in the area will continue. And the governor said, I can't see you because of that. You know the right thing to do. You didn't do the right thing. That's why you want to see me. So in like manner, a lot of the people who build these places, know the right thing, but they do not want to do the right thing. And that is why we have this issue that we are currently having in Abuja right now.
Thank you, Benga. Another top story on the Vanguard. Sad, bad state of police barracks. Officers live in filth, leaks, and rodents. The living conditions in several police barracks across Nigeria have raised serious concerns over welfare and safety of police officers and their families. Recent investigations reported widespread infrastructural decay in barracks across different states, with officers facing leaking roofs, damaged ceilings, poor sanitation, and blocked drainage, and also inadequate water supply and rodent infestation. Benga, how long have these barracks gone without major renovation?
The question is not how long has the barrack gone without major renovation. The question is, what are the laws that guide the barrack life? Is it in the manual that the government will be responsible for continuous renovation of the house you live in? I mean, there are people, I don't know how the tenancy agreement is, but I know that most places, I don't have places for rent yet, but I remembered when I was still a tenant that if something spoiled in the place I rent, I usually will repair it. If it is a major damage, that's when I'll be waiting for the landlord to repair it. And if the landlord does not repair it in time, I would repair it before it gets bad because I'm the one living in there. So if you check the standard of living in many police barracks, do many of the police officers and their family, do they even conduct themselves properly? Like, oh, we live here and we should take ownership of making this our environment neat, clean, and livable for us. That is the question. I won't be able to answer as to whether it is the job of the federal government to be repairing their barracks for them from time to time. I have no information concerning how that is done. I don't know how much has been earmarked for that kind of project. I'm sure that if that money had been earmarked for that kind of project and this issue is coming forth, then the people in charge should be queried and, heads should be made to roll, because, of course, it is not impossible that the allocation will be made and some people will use it to go and build their own private houses or sit on the money, for their own private benefit. But even at that, let's look at some issues from the surface, which is, if you compare a police barrack, an army barrack, a navy barrack, and an air force barrack, why is it that when you go to the air force officers barrack, the naval officers barrack, you see things are usually neater, are usually more well put together than what you will see in police barracks? Even not just in terms of their living spaces, even in their dressing. How many times have you come across an Air Force officer dressed shabbily? Ever? If you've gone out anywhere in the country and you came across Air Force officer, how many times would you say you have seen an Air Force officer or a naval officer, dressed shabbily? So some of these things are cultural things where the environment, the culture of the environment condition the mindset of the people. I used to tell people that if you are somebody who dress neat and well, you are nurse and being well put together all the time. If you join the police force in Nigeria today and you spend 2 years there is likelihood that the level of finesse would have reduced drastically. But if you are somebody who is not even well put together, who is not caring about finesse, and if you join the Nigerian Air Force today or you join the Nigerian Navy today, before the next 2 years, you will see that you become prim and proper because of the culture of the two different environments. So while we might lay some of the fault for the decay in facilities in some of these barracks on the doorstep of the government, if it is their duty to provide, repair and maintenance for these structures, we should also put some of the fault on the doorsteps of the end users, who are the ones living there, and the priority, the onus is on them to ensure that keeping that place livable, safe, and healthy is their duty. And if they have failed in that duty, let us blame the government. Let us also blame the end users.
Okay, how much does the federal government allocate annually for this police accommodation and infrastructure? Because there should be funds donated, because it's a regular, they use these buildings regularly. So from time to time, resources and funds should be allocated so as the family members of the police could live conducively. So what can you say about that, Binga?
Like I told you, if you had listened very well to my earlier submission, I said I don't know how much is allocated, and that is why I couldn't speak on whether even it is the duty of the government. But what I know is that in the salaries of government workers, there are allocations for housing allowance, transport allowance, maybe even lunch in some cases. And for some people, it is monetized. And so they had to go and find accommodation themselves outside. Maybe for the police officers who choose to live in the barrack, their housing allowance is what covers the accommodation that they are given or something like that. But all these allowances are usually, in the salary structure. I mean, even if you check your own salary, if your organization, does monthly breakdown of how they come up with your gross pay and your net pay, you see under your gross pay that there is transportation allowance, maybe wardrobe allowance for people in your line of business. There is lunch allowance. There is housing allowance, even furniture allowance in some cases. And then after that total breakdown, you have your gross, then they will now remove, maybe for the government worker, they will remove NHF fund, they will remove union dues, then they will remove tax and some other things before you come to your net. But specificity of how much the government, but I think if you read through the detail of that story that you were talking about before coming on air, you should have seen if there is a provision for, but I don't have access to that story right where I am right now. You should have seen how much, if at all, there is any provision under the law that an allocation should be made for yearly repair of such infrastructure there. But I don't have that answer.
All right. Benga will still be here to take us on our main conversation. When we return, 435 billion naira beyond regular FAAC, that is the Federation Accounts Allocation Committee, tracking the billions flowing to Nigerian states. Don't go anywhere, we'll be right back. Welcome back. Onto our main conversation. At least 435.25 billion naira was received by 29 Nigerian states between January and January 26 through the Federation Account State Infrastructure and Security Funding window. The funds, separate from regular statutory allocations, were recorded for infrastructure and security amid recent insecurity and major infrastructure deficits. No such disbursement was recorded in the same period of 2025. Enugu received the highest clearly identified amount at 27.02 billion naira, followed by Gombe with 24.50 billion naira. Ogun received 19.50 billion naira, while Borno got 16.41 billion naira. Gombe's receipt was particularly notable, reaching 490% of its 5 billion naira full year budget provision within 6 months. The 435.25 billion naira represented about 10% of 4.55 trillion naira federation allocation received by the states reviewed and 6.65% of their combined FAAC and internally generated revenue. However, the actual amount may be higher because some states recorded the funds under the FAAC-related revenue categories. 4 states were excluded because data was unavailable, while Akwa Ibom did not disclose the figure. The funding was introduced under President Bola Tinubu's infrastructure support to fund strengthen state investments in roads, health, education, water, power, agriculture, and security. Ming, are you still here with me, sir?
Go on, sir.
Okay. So
I'm with you.
okay. So why was Gombe there? I mentioned 3 states. Why were they the only ones being funded by the federation? Because Ogun received 19.50 billion naira, Borno got 16.41 billion naira, and Gombe received another amount of money. So why were these 3 states, why were they the only ones given or mentioned? Because from what I can see here, it is just about 3 states that were funded. So why was there no other funding by the other states too?
Well, I think because the report is stating that out of the 36 states, there are 4 states that don't have documentation that they can trace. The actual website that is tracking this thing in the federation account is there is a group called Budget. Budget help Nigerians who are interested in understanding the detail of Nigerian budget to track how much is allocated for what, in what state, in what local government, in what environment. So if you read through that budget report, I think this their subunit that they call what's the name they put for it? I'm trying to check. But it's a subgroup under budget that is tracking this particular story. Yes, Open Nigerian State, which is a budget-backed website, they track this story that about 432 billion, or how much was it? 435 billion naira. Special money was set aside for security in 32 states, or I think it's 29 states that they are able to get receipt for. And some of those states put that special money in a traceable place along with their FAAC revenue inflow. So the FAAC revenue inflow is the money that they get from the federal accounts every month. All the revenue generated from VAT, from import duty, from all the revenue sources in the country is divided among the federal government, the state government, and the local government. So, and this special fund, which is specifically targeted towards security and infrastructure in the state, is different from the normal FAAC allocation. So a state like Jigawa or Gombe, for example, it may be collecting 14 billion naira for its normal FAAC allocation. But it's saying that under this period, Gombe has also collected an extra 24.5 billion naira, from this special security fund. Enugu has collected 27 billion from this special security fund, which is apart from its normal FAAC account. So for some states, they accounted it in such a way that open budget can trace this money and say, this is where the money entered into your account. And maybe they might not be able to trace how it is spent, but at least they were able to trace the receipt of that money from FAAC account. The first state you were mentioning actually either did not collect the money or they were not given such money, maybe because they were deemed to be safe and that there was no report of insecurity in those states, or they collected the money, but their process of account was so obscure that the was unable to trace it, and that was why they wrote in their report that they could not get report for those 4 states that you were referring to. But I think the question should not be who got what or who did not get what. The question rather should be, what has the money been able to achieve in the time that the money has been made available to all the states? Have we seen drastic reduction in insecurity in the states that have gotten this money, or have we seen a spike in insecurity in some of the states that have gotten the money? Because in that report, it was also stated that in the period under the review, over 605 or 650 students have been abducted in about 7 separate mass abductions in the country under the period where they got this special fund for this project. So the question rather should be, what are they using the money from? Are we seeing the result of the money that has been given to them? Security is a serious business. Maintaining security is expensive, no doubt, but is throwing money at the security issue, is it solving the problem or is it exacerbating the problem? Because it's been noted in the country over time that when government throw money at security, some governors, some states, will connive with anti-state agents to make sure that their state is not peaceful so that they can request for more money in terms of security fund. If your state is peaceful, there is no need for extra security fund as they are earmarking for people. But some people, because they want the money, would, probably commence an Operation Honestness like the American government did when they wanted to attack Iraq in 2003. It was alleged by several leaked CIA documents that the American government actually knew about the bombing of the World Trade Center and that they wanted something that they will use as excuse that will rile up the anger of the American citizen, and they will use it as a justification to attack Iraq for their oil. So the same thing, there are several people in government, I won't say governors specifically because we don't have any evidence to back up this claim, but some governments would know that they only make money when their state is not peaceful, and they encourage their state not being peaceful so that they can make money. And if the federal government is continuing to earmark money and throw money at the problem rather than looking at the root causes and the solutions, the multifaceted solutions that can be done to bring the level of insecurity in the country down, rather than just throwing money at it, we'll continue to throw money at the problem, and the problem will continue to grow bigger and become hydra-headed, and the money will not show any benefit. So I think that should rather be the question of the areas we'll be looking at as citizens, and not who gets what, because people might get money. Take, for example, it was stated that Lagos received 30.3 billion in this special fund. But before even this special fund was allocated, Lagos State has had Lagos State Security Trust Fund since maybe 2003 or thereabout. And that Lagos State Security Trust Fund is what is responsible for LNSC that you see on the street, that is keeping our streets safe, that you see, and people like Kai, Lasma, and all the rest, that is keeping our streets safe. And you won't say that it is just this special fund that is keeping Lagos safe. It is the fact that Lagos State has a framework, a standard operational procedure and framework to understand the problem, to understand how to solve it, and then understand what it needs, where it needs money, where it needs, citizen re-education, sensitization, and other things, and they are doing it appropriately. And that is why Lagos is relatively safe, despite the humongous population that Lagos has compared to many of these other states that are ridden with insecurity as we have it today.
So institutions to look into how the money is going to be spent.
It's not how the money is going to be spent. The money has already been spent. These open budget guys are just looking at, oh, this money came to your state at this time. Nigerians need to know about it. So it's a private institution that is just giving us the information for our consumption, but the money has gotten to all these states long ago, because the report was actually looking at I'm trying to say it. Yes, was actually looking at Q1 and Q2 of this year, which is January to June of this year. That's where when that money, so which means if you are looking at it from that angle, 6 months, and in that 6 months, it was said that Lagos got 30.30 billion naira, which means approximately Lagos got about 5.05 billion naira every month. You understand? It is like Lagos got about 5.05 billion naira every month. A state like, and that's additional to their normal FAAC account. State like Enugu, where they said Enugu got a state by state analysis showed that Enugu got 27.02 billion. If you divide it by 6, it's showing you that maybe Enugu got around 4 point something billion every month in those 6 months under review. So if Enugu normal FAAC revenue is
Okay. Thank you so much, Benga. So we should expect that the citizens begin to see changes in what the federal government have allocated to these states, so as for effective development and peace in the state. Thank you so much, Mr. Benga Paul Ayonuga. Please do well to follow us across all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV7. And don't forget to share. I still remain Olaguki Ayotomiwa. God bless you and God bless Nigeria. See you next time. Bye for now.